Welcome back to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
So today we are tackling a story that really gets to the heart of entertainment, of IP, really the future of storytelling itself.
A huge one. It's a real collision course, I think.
It is. We've gone through that fire hose of information you all sent in, and we're going to try and distill it down because this is about one of the most monumental, I think, and definitely controversial shifts by a major corporation that we've seen in a long time.
You've got, on one side, the biggest, most, let's say, aggressive guardians of beloved characters in the world. Disney. And on the other, you have what a lot of people are calling this inevitable oncoming tide of generative AI.
Right. And Disney is making this huge calculated bet, and the stakes, they couldn't be higher. We're talking about their entire catalog, their nostalgia.
Which is their most valuable asset. You could argue it's the only thing that truly matters.
Absolutely. So let's set the stage here, because it's easy to forget just how massive Disney is. It is a gigantic, incredibly successful corporation. And, while we can all focus on a few recent films that maybe hit their box office targets, the company is still a financial behemoth. You look at what's in the pipeline, they have these guaranteed, almost machine-like successes coming.
Like Zootopia 2. People are waiting for that.
Exactly. Zootopia 2 is coming. They've had good, solid wins with things like Moana and Lilo and Stitch.
And we really have to talk about the next Avatar.
Oh, absolutely.
Avatar. Fire and Ash.
Yeah.
Our sources flagged this one specifically because it's the perfect metric for modern Disney success.
Oh,
well, you can talk to any analyst out there, and they will tell you, without a doubt, that film is going to make over $2 billion globally. It's a given.
A certainty.
A certainty. But then you ask the average person, you ask your friend, hey, what was your favorite part of the last Avatar?
And you get a blank stare.
You get a shrug.
Right.
A blank stare. People remember the visuals, maybe, but the plot, the characters, it's not sticky.
That's a really sharp point. The success is built on the spectacle, on the corporate machine, the global distribution, the marketing.
The whole apparatus. It's not necessarily built on that emotional connection that, characterized their classic film.
And that's the core of it. They succeed because they are massive. But now they're fighting something that they can't just outspend. They can't just throw more CGI at it.
Exactly. They can't out-CGI the decentralized power of generative AI. It's a different kind of opponent.
So that brings us to our mission for this deep dive. How do we square Disney's whole corporate strategy, which has always been about obsessive control?
Clear control.
With this technological inevitability of AI generation?
I think that's it. Our mission is to really dissect the specifics of this new relationship Disney is building with OpenAI.
Right.
And specifically, we're focusing on their big video model, Sora. And this is not just some simple agreement. It's a 3-year licensing deal. It's a huge equity investment. We have to get past the headlines and understand the immediate uses, those short social media clips they're talking about.
But also the bigger picture.
The much bigger, much heavier long-term implication for their IP, for creator rights, for the whole concept of character canon. What happens when Luke Skywalker just becomes an input for a user prompt?
Okay, so let's unpack all of this. We've got sources that detail the precise terms of the deal, the just staggering amount of money involved, and the very specific character, which to me is where this gets really, really interesting.
The character list is wild.
It is, and we have to look at the corporate context, the legal battles surrounding it, because, and this is so crucial, at the exact same time, Disney is making friends with OpenAI. They are legally attacking other AI companies for doing similar things. It's this incredibly complex, two-pronged strategy: engage and enforce. All right, let's start with the structure of this deal, because this isn't, some casual partnership. This is a foundational, multi-layered agreement that really intertwines giants.
Yeah, it starts at the operational level. So you have a 3-year licensing agreement, and that's specifically to allow Sora to use Disney's IP.
And that 3-year window is important.
It's highly significant. It tells you both sides see this as a substantial test phase, maybe a long-term experiment, but there's a defined end, a moment where they can reevaluate and decide to continue or, pull the plug.
Okay, and the goal of this licensing part is what exactly?
It's very defined. It's to allow Sora to generate short, user-prompted videos for social media. That's it. It's a direct corporate response to where the audience is now.
They want to capture that viral conversation.
Exactly. They want to generate shareable, super accessible content where their IP is the star, but in these, seconds-long bursts. It's about being part of the daily scroll.
And it's not just about the output, right? They're licensing the characters for the training of the model itself.
That is a critical point. This is a payment for the fundamental right to expose Disney's entire archive, all the films, the shorts, the animation styles, to the generative AI. They're teaching the AI what Mickey Mouse is.
And in doing so, they're validating OpenAI's model. They're giving it the crown jewels.
They are. But that license, that's just the first layer of this whole thing.
Yeah.
The deal also makes Disney a major paying customer of OpenAI.
Okay.
So we're moving way past just fan videos. We're talking about deep operational integration. They're going to be using OpenAI's application programming interface, their APIs.
Let's pause on that because API can sound a bit technical. For a company like Disney, what does using OpenAI's APIs actually mean in practice?
Think of it like an official handshake between two different software systems. It's the set of rules that lets Disney's internal data, their customer data, their content libraries, production schedules, you name it, talk securely with OpenAI's advanced model.
So they're not just buying access to a tool, they're plugging their whole operation into the OpenAI.
For the long haul, it seems. This isn't just about making funny fan videos. This is about fundamental internal optimization.
So what kind of things are we talking about?
Well, the sources say this is meant to build new products, new tools, new experiences across the entire company. And they specifically call out Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
The suggestion is that Disney Plus is either already or will very soon be heavily influenced by this AI architecture. Imagine recommendation algorithms that are just way more sophisticated.
So not just you watched a Marvel movie, here's another Marvel movie.
Not at all. More like looking at real-time viewer behavior, maybe even generating personalized content cues or user interfaces for each person. And that's just the customer-facing side. Internally, think about it. AI for managing production pipelines, for global dubbing, for localization.
Streamlining massive costs.
Huge costs.
Sure.
So this really shows they view OpenAI as a critical infrastructure part, not just a content generator.
And that deep commitment is sealed by the money. The financial outlay here is it's staggering. It's not a licensing. Disney made a $1 billion equity investment in OpenAI.
$1 billion. That is a powerful, unambiguous statement. For a company like Disney, which is famously strategic and honestly often conservative with its big capital spending, this is a major, major move.
It tells you they see this as an investment in future growth. It's not just an operational cost on the books.
No, they're buying a piece of the future. They are placing a $1 billion bet that OpenAI's valuation is just going to keep skyrocketing.
And the structure of the deal reinforces that, doesn't it? I saw they also included warrants.
That's right. Warrants basically give Disney the option, the right to buy more shares of OpenAI later on, but at a price that's already been set, a lower price.
Which is a classic VC move.
A classic venture capital move.
Yeah.
It means Disney is hedging. If OpenAI becomes even more valuable, Disney gets to increase its ownership stake on favorable terms. It just screams that this is a huge financial venture for them. They believe this AI bubble, if it is a bubble, is nowhere near popping.
And their CEO, Bob Iger, he had a very specific statement for investors about. He said they were extremely impressed with Sam Altman's progress at OpenAI.
Yeah, and that they wanted to participate in what Sam is creating, viewing it as a good invest, the public corporate line, the confident presentation.
But if we read the tea leaves...
The tea leaves tell a very different story, or at least a more complex one. The analysts cited in our sources are frankly much more cynical.
And one assessment really stood out. I mean, it was brutal. The interpretation that the deal looks like a hostage video.
That's a powerful image, isn't it? For a company that is so used to controlling every part of its narrative.
So what's behind that? Why a hostage video?
It comes from this feeling that Disney, for all its power and all its money, saw no other path forward. They feel like they have to do that. For years, traditional media has been trying to fight this, or at least slow it down.
The use of their copyrighted material for training data.
Exactly. But the speed of AI development, the sheer scale of it, and the amount of money being poured in, it just means resistance is futile financially.
So by paying $1 billion and licensing their most precious IP, Disney is basically signaling surrender.
Or at least a strategic.
If you can't beat them, pay $1 billion to join them, you get a cut.
That is the fear. It's an acknowledgement that the whole game has changed. Disney is deciding that owning a piece of the tech is more valuable than trying to maintain this absolute pristine control over its IP in a world where that IP is already being scraped and used without their permission anyway.
They're mitigating risk by becoming a central.
I think so. And this all leads to the bigger context here. This idea of the AI bubble. Our sources are really strong on this point.
It's not just speculation, it's tangible.
The anecdote in the sources is perfect.
Yeah.
Being at an airport where literally every ad on a screen was for some AI product.
I've seen that. It's everywhere.
It perfectly captures the moment. This frantic, almost irrational exuberance. And Disney is operating inside that bubble. They're making this high-stakes billion-dollar bet that this tech is the future driver of value. And Iger is under huge pressure from investors to show that they're in the game, even if it compromises their historical, almost sacred view on IP control.
That tension is incredible. Financial opportunity versus content integrity. But they did, of course, include some reassuring language.
Of course. The official line is that Disney and OpenAI share a commitment to responsible use of AI, that it protects users and, crucially, the rights of creators.
And Iger himself said they agreed to honor and value and respect our content. But I have to ask, when you license your most beloved characters for short, user-prompted, viral bait, how can you fundamentally honor and value that content? The immediate goal is novelty and volume. That seems to be in direct conflict with respecting a carefully built story.
It really does. It sounds great in a press release, but the operational reality of generative AI clashes so sharply with that idea.
So the pivot is clear. Disney is investing big, integrating deep, licensing wide. They are all in on the AI future.
Yeah, whatever the risks are to their brand purity and their long-held control. And now we have to look at what that commitment actually looks like in practice with the characters themselves.
Okay, so let's move from the balance sheets to the character sheets.
Yeah.
The actual creative application of this. And the main goal here is what they call user-generated content.
Right. It's all about fueling fan interaction and getting that social media buzz.
And the scale of the IP they're unlocking here is it's just hard to wrap your head. The deal lets Sora use more than 200 characters from Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars.
It's basically the entire modern mythology that Disney owns. This isn't them dipping a toe in the water. This is a full-on cannonball into the deep end of the IP pool.
A headfirst dive, and the intention is laser-focused.
Very. These are going to be short, fan-inspired, user-prompted videos. And they're meant specifically for quick consumption and sharing on social media. It's a clear, decisive play to inject their most valuable asset right into the fastest-moving part of internet culture.
The TikTok and Reels economy.
Exactly. The goal is rapid, viral content, using their characters to get people talking and, hopefully, clicking back to Disney's own services.
And that's the key part. This content isn't just for Twitter or Instagram. Disney has a very specific strategy to bring the best of this fan-created AI stuff directly into their main subscription product, Disney+.
They're planning to set up what they're calling a creator corner on the app.
A creator corner.
The agreement says a selection of the best fan-inspired Sora shorts. So the most popular, maybe the most creative, probably the least legally problematic will be available to stream right there on Disney+.
And this is where that promise of responsible use just immediately runs into a brick wall. The unpredictable, chaotic reality of user-prompted AI.
Completely. Because what is the definition of best in this context?
Right.
We're talking about content that users are generating by typing in whatever wild prompts they can dream up.
Yeah.
Our source material points to this massive potential for what you can only call unhinged Sora video.
They reference that famous early AI test exam, the prompt that generated Helen Keller fighting Harriet Tubman in a WWE ladder match.
That hypothetical example is the perfect illustration of the kind of creative anarchy that these models produce. It's driven by novelty, by absurdity, by the desire to just break everything.
So if Disney embraces that, the stuff they're putting on Disney Plus could be radically different from the highly polished, meticulously crafted movies they're known for.
It's a total juxtaposition of their brand. It's night and day.
And to make this more tangible, our sources anticipated specific kinds of unhinged content, like, Black Panther fighting Woody from Toy Story?
Black Panther in a one-on-one match with Woody, potentially in a WWE ring, yes.
Wow.
And that kind of arbitrary crossover is exactly where the test of IP dilution really begins.
Wow.
For decades, Disney has kept their universes sacred and separate. Marvel characters don't meet Pixar characters, especially not in a wrestling match.
But now they're explicitly licensing the ability for users to just smash those canons together, and they plan to reward the most bizarre or the most viewed results by putting them on their premium streaming service.
It's a huge gamble, and it raises a really serious question about their strategy for the platform itself.
You mean, are people really going to scroll through Disney Plus?
Exactly. The source material is deeply skeptical that this kind of fan-made content is actually going to drive meaningful engagement on the streaming platform itself. It could just feel like unnecessary slop that's been tacked onto a premium service people pay for.
The way people use a free addictive feed is just totally different from how they use a paid streaming app. You usually go to Disney Plus to watch a specific movie or a series.
You go with intent. So if the goal is just to seem relevant, maybe this works. But if the goal is to keep people subscribed and engaged on Disney Plus, the argument that this UGC is just slop feels pretty persuasive.
What if they try to legitimize it more? What if they shift to longer form content, say 5 or 10 minute shorts made with Sora? That might feel more at home on a stream.
But then the cost and the complexity just explode. Generating longer video with Sora is way more computationally intensive. That means higher licensing fees, higher API costs.
So the whole reason for using AI for production, that it's cheap and high volume, that gets undermined.
Right. They're caught in this trap between the cheap, chaotic content of social media and the expensive, high-quality content of traditional film. Where do they land?
Well, let's look at the characters who are being thrown into this experiment first. We have a detailed list. The first batch slated for the Sora update in early 2026. And this list, it's a goldmine for understanding their risk tolerance.
It is a stunning display of confidence. I mean, from the classics, you've got Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Lilo, Stitch, Ariel, Belle, Beast, Cinderella.
Baymax, Simba, Mufasa, these are the absolute foundations of the Disney brand.
Then you shift to Marvel's heavy hitter, Black Panther, Captain America, Deadpool, Groot, Iron Man, Loki, Thor, and Thanos.
And finally, the cornerstone of their modern empire, Star Wars.
We're talking Darth Vader, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia, The Mandalorian, and Stormtroopers.
That list represents an immense commitment. It shows they're absolutely willing to risk their most valuable, most recognizable assets, Mickey, Luke, Iron Man, in this new, unpredictable world.
But including those specific live-action characters, that's not just a creative choice. No, that is a legal time bomb.
The sheer audacity of this Sora deal, you really understand it when you see what else Disney's doing at the same time.
Right, the legal posture they're maintaining everywhere else.
Yeah.
The timing of Bob Iger's announcement of the OpenAI deal was not a coincidence. It happened almost at the exact same time as reports of a cease and desist letter they sent to Google.
And that just perfectly sums up their two-sided strategy. They're making a deal with the AI giant they've invested $1 billion in, OpenAI.
Well, one they respect.
While aggressively going after anyone else they see as infringing on them, like Google.
And our sources confirmed the details of that Google letter. Google was allegedly using copyrighted Disney characters and proprietary info, basically just taking their content to train their AI model without permission and without paying for it.
So Disney is drawing a very clear line in the sand. We will license our IP to our chosen partners in a controlled environment for $1 billion. But if you just take it to train your data, we will come after you with everything we've got.
And that level of aggression, that's not new for them. It is absolutely consistent with Disney's corporate identity for decades. They are known for being fiercely, almost notoriously, aggressive about protecting their IP.
And to really show how extreme that protectionism is, the source material brought up a detailed and honestly pretty shocking story.
The Spider-Man gravestone incident.
Exactly. Disney famously went after the father of a deceased child for putting a picture of Spider-Man on his gravestone.
It's just incredible to think. Child's gravestone, what was their official reason?
The reported argument from the corporation was that putting Spider-Man on a child's gravestone would ruin the magic of the character for everyone else.
Wow.
They claimed it would dilute the brand, that if they allowed it once, they'd lose control over the IP. Now, I don't think any rational person actually believes that seeing a memorial would suddenly make you dislike Spider-Man.
Of course.
But the story is a profound illustration of their corporate zealot. The lengths they are willing to go, even against a grieving family, all under the banner of protecting the brand, the match.
That level of zealotry is what makes this Sora deal so breathtaking. It suggests that $1 billion is enough for Disney to basically abandon decades of taking that moral high ground on IP.
They're deciding the monetary value of being in the AI game outweighs the traditional value of creative control.
It creates this massive cognitive dissonance. You have this history of almost inhuman IP protection on one side, and now you have a 3-year deal giving an AI tool the right to create whatever fans can dream up with 200 of your characters.
Which brings us to the biggest complication here, the one our sources call the most fascinating and risky tale of all, the face and like.
This is the legal tightrope they have to walk. The initial theories in the industry were that to avoid massive legal trouble, Disney would only allow masked or animated characters.
Right. The thinking was, if the face is hidden, like Iron Man or Mickey, you're licensing the cost, the identity, but not a real person's like.
But the character list we just went through confirms that's not what they're doing. They've included many recognizable, unmasked live-action characters.
Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia, Thor, and Loki.
And this is where the liability flows. For these characters, the audience association didn't break. Han Solo is Harrison, Luke Skywalker's Mark, Thor is Chris Hemsworth.
So even if the AI tries to generate a slightly different face, the core visual of Luke Skywalker in his robes is intrinsically linked to Mark Hamill's trail.
And this immediately brings up huge rights concerns.
Yeah.
Especially after the recent Hollywood later. The actors' unions, like SAG-AFTRA, fought so hard against AI using performers' likeness without proper consent and
They want control over how and when they're faced.
So what happens when a user generates a Sora short showing, say, Chris Hemsworth's very recognizable face as Thor beating up Belle from Beauty and the Beast?
A completely bizarre, non-canon event.
Right. Hemsworth has spent his whole career building his image. Is that kind of unhinged fan content something he wants his face associated with, even if it's licensed by the company he works for?
It's a massive legal and ethical gray area. Does Disney's contract with him give them the right to license his digital likeness for arbitrary fan-prompted AI videos?
And if the AI generates an image of Thor that looks exactly like Hemsworth, but Disney says, oh, that's just the character, not the actor's likeness, that's an argument that is going to face a huge battle in court.
You see the contrast so clearly with the other characters on the list.
For sure. Darth Vader and Iron Man make perfect sense for that. The face is completely hidden. The likeness is the costume. Same with Thanos or Groot, they're CGI. The likeness is a purely digital creation that Disney has much more legal control over.
And characters like Black Panther and Captain America also give them some cover since they're usually masked.
Our sources speculate that Disney's internal legal rules for Sora will probably mandate the masked versions of those characters, precisely to avoid dealing with the likeness of specific actors, like the late Chadwick Boseman.
But the explicit inclusion of Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia, it suggests one of two things. Either Disney is incredibly confident that they can legally generate a recognizable but distinct digital likeness that avoids infringement.
Which seems almost impossible.
Or they've already gone and negotiated the rights for this specific AI use case.
And if they did that, it would have required massive, costly payouts to those key actors and their estate. And if they haven't, they're betting their billion-dollar investment on the idea that an AI can generate a character that looks just like Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker without legally being Mark Hamill's likeness.
It's an unbelievably aggressive legal position, sacrificing decades of controlled image for market presence right now.
And the potential for fan chaos is exactly what these models are designed. People are going to immediately try all the craziest combinations. Iron Man versus Luke Skywalker, Cinderella in a dance-off with Princess Leia.
The fact that Disney is enabling this, knowing the actors' likenesses are on the line, is the deepest tension point in this whole. They are trading IP sanctity for market.
So, beyond all the legal issues and the finance, we have to talk about the fundamental question our sources raise. The quality question. The fear that the result of this whole partnership will just be AI slop.
That term, AI slop, it really hits on this widespread concern that generative AI, when it's used for high volume and low effort, just inevitably drags down the overall quality. And if Disney, the company that has always presented itself as the pinnacle of quality story, is now betting this big on this model, what does that say about their priority?
The skepticism about these one-minute chaotic clips on Disney Plus is, I think, profoundly warranted. The service is designed for premium, lean-back viewing. It's not designed for that addictive, quick-hit content you scroll through. So if Disney pushes too much of this slop, there's a real risk of a negative feedback.
Where fans see the brand associated with low-quality, weird mashup, they lose respect for the IP.
And then they stop showing up for the premium movies and shows that are the foundation of Disney's business.
So that's the core dilemma, isn't it? Is Disney shifting to a model that favors quantity over? If the plan is just to flood the zone with Disney characters in any context, just to stay relevant on social media, they're fundamentally changing what their brand has always stood for.
And the psychology behind that is fast. Why would a premium brand risk being associated with slop? It's probably driven by fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of irrelevance. If the younger generation is spending 8 hours a day watching personalized, chaotic, short-form video, Disney feels like they have to inject their IP into that fire hose, even if it means compromising the integrity of that IP to do it.
They think being seen is more important than being seen.
I think so. And that leads right to the second major critique, the potential for long-term irreparable damage to their legacy IP.
The idea that this feels less like a confident move and more like a last gasp for relevance.
Exactly. Disney built its empire on protecting these characters with, as we said, that extreme zealotry of the Spider-Man grave. So to suddenly release control and let these characters become interchangeable inputs for prompt, it risks watering down the product.
The argument is that characters like Mickey Mouse, Iron Man, Luke Skywalker, they're generational cultural artifacts.
Yes.
They shouldn't be treated like assets to be thrown into the middle of a transient AI market bubble that might just pop in ours.
And there's a real sense of frustration from critics that Disney has already done enough damage to some of these franchises through recent creative choices.
Our sources specifically cited the Star Wars sequel trilogy and the apathy that set in over Star Wars.
Right, so the argument is, why are you doubling down on a technical fix when the real problem is your artistic direction? Why spend $1 billion on AI when what you really need is good writing.
The issue of narrative cohesion. Why would I care about the emotional stakes in the next 3-hour Star Wars if I just watched an AI clip of Luke Skywalker fighting Cinderella in a cage Mad Plus?
You would. The AI slop commoditizes the character. It makes them feel disposable, like an algorithm's output, not a sacred figure in a protected story.
And if the characters lose that sense of protection, they lose their power to carry a big-budget, high-stakes narrative.
Which is why there's this loud call for a different direction, for Disney to pull back and focus on developing storytelling that is once again inspiring and once again inviting to people. The feeling is that the current content just isn't an exciting audience, and $1 billion on AI slop is a huge distraction from that fundamental problem.
But then you have the pragmatic reality.
You do. As much as we can talk about the ethical issues and the quality risks, this is undeniably the direction the world is going. Our sources noted that AI companies are paying unbelievable sums of money right now to be.
So Disney's actions, while they're creatively risky, are fiscally understandable. They're placing a huge bet on a powerful financial trend, regardless of whether that trend ultimately good.
It's an investment in market presence over artistic purity. It's the ultimate hedge. If this AI wave is as big and transformative as some people think, Disney owns a piece of the pipeline.
And if the wave collapses,
They've only spent $1 billion, which is a massive sum, but for them it's not existential. And it's for a 3-year license they can just walk away from. The real cost isn't the money.
it's the potential damage to the trust that fans have in their most cherished cultural icons.
That's the real $1 billion question.
This has been an incredibly complex deep dive. We've traced this collision between corporate finance, disruptive tech, and cultural integrity. So let's quickly synthesize the core facts for you, the learner, so you can walk away with a crystal clear picture of.
Right. So we established that Disney's new strategy is built on a monumental $1 billion equity investment in OpenAI, and that's tied to a major 3-year licensing deal.
A deal that allows Sora to generate user-prompted videos with more than 200 of their biggest characters from Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars. It's a release of IP control on a scale we've just never seen from them.
And we highlighted that at the same time, Disney is running its aggressive legal strategy. They sent that cease and desist letter to Google for using their IP in AI training.
And that aggression is totally consistent with their decades-long history of hypervigilance over their copyright. We saw with that notorious Spider-Man gravestone.
And the core conflict, the real riskiest part of this whole thing, is in that character list itself. The inclusion of recognizable, unmasked live-action characters, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Thor, Loki,
which introduces this massive legal complication over using specific actors' likenesses in potentially unhinged fan-generated content. It forces Disney to navigate actor rights and moral rights in a completely new, untested legal world.
So what's the aha moment here? What does this huge corporate move ultimately tell us about where intellectual property is headed?
I think this deal reveals that even the most powerful guardians of IP companies that built their empires on meticulous control and aggressive legal defense are now choosing participation over prolonged.
Disney is betting $1 billion on financial gain and guaranteed market presence. They're signaling that they prioritize being at the front of the technology and owning a piece of the future over holding out for some resolution to this quality versus quantity debate.
The AI tide has.
Yeah.
And Disney has decided to pilot a ship rather than try to build a wall and drown. So what does this all mean for the future of entertainment and for your relationship? Well, the deal secures Disney's place in the AI landscape. It's going to fuel engagement on social media. But that comes at the potential risk of fundamentally changing how we all connect with characters that have spanned generations. They're going from revered mythology to interchangeable inputs for an algorithm that's designed for chaos.
It's the ultimate trade-off. Relevance and market share today for purity in canon tomorrow.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought. We've seen that specific list of characters like Skywalker and Iron Lice. If this legacy IP being diluted in pursuit of short-form slop, which Disney is then putting on a Disney Plus what, is the long-term emotional and relevance once they're no longer tech parts, but rather as customized prompts. Something to mull over as you see that first wave of AI-generated Cinderella Leia mashups and try to decide if what you're seeing, brilliant novel, or if the sound of brain away.